February 2013. Crown Casino, Melbourne, Australia. You're looking at Australia's largest casino. 220,000 square feet of gaming floor, 2,500 slot machines, 540 table games, billions of dollars moving through it every year. And in 72 hours, one man is going to walk out of here $32 million richer. The casino will never call the police. They will never admit what happened. And they will go to extraordinary lengths to make sure you never find out. His name is James Manning, New Zealand businessman, self-made millionaire. 43 years old, with a gambling instinct sharp enough to make casino managers pay attention when he sits down. And right now his phone is ringing. Is greater than Mr. Manning. This is Crown Casino VIP services. We'd like to invite you to experience our mahogany room. All expenses paid. Private villa for your family. And we'll make sure there's enough cash on hand just in case you get lucky. Manning lets a beat pass. Is greater than, when do I arrive? A casino, a business whose entire architecture is engineered to separate you from your money, just called a high-stakes gambler and offered to fly him in first class. They're so confident in their edge that they'll comp his villa, stock his minibar, and make sure he has enough chips to keep playing all night. That confidence is about to cost them $32 million. Manning isn't coming to lose, and he won't be gambling alone. Crown Casino runs the most advanced security apparatus in the Southern Hemisphere. 30,000 cameras, facial recognition, ex-military surveillance staff, people who spent years tracking human behavior in environments where a missed signal had consequences. Their systems were designed by the same firms that protect the Vegas Strip. In 20 years of operation, Crown has never been successfully robbed. Not once. Their security isn't just good. It's a point of institutional pride. What nobody on that security team knows, somewhere in Melbourne, a young man is already inside their cameras. The mahogany room sits on the first floor of Crown Towers. Invitation only. Minimum bets start at $500. Maximum bets are limited only by how much money you brought. The room doesn't run on luck, it runs on theater. A stage where the wealthy come to perform wealth, and where the house quietly collects the ticket price. The room operates 24 hours a day. The dealers are the best in Australia. Everything in it is designed to make you feel like royalty while it takes your money. Crown assigns Manning a personal VIP handler the moment he arrives. Her job, anticipate every need, keep him comfortable, keep him playing. His drink, his food, his mood, all of it, her responsibility. She has been in this role for 6 years. She knows every corner of the property, every shift change, every camera angle in the building. What Crown doesn't know, she has a price, and Manning already paid it. Her real name never appears in any court document. Crown's lawyers buried it under NDAs and sealed filings. Police records are sealed. We'll call her the inside woman. Here is what is confirmed. 6 years in Crown VIP services at $55,000 a year. Fired on February 15th, 2013. The same morning Manning was walked off the property. She signed an NDA, received a severance package, and disappeared. Here is what the evidence strongly suggests. By late 2012, she was underwater. Her mother had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Medical bills were running $15,000 a month. Insurance covered some, not enough. She was working double shifts, running on almost nothing, and still falling behind every month, Manning noticed. That's what he does. He identifies the specific shape of someone's desperation the way other people read a weather report. The offer, as best as investigators can reconstruct it, $300,000 cash. In exchange for one thing, access codes to Crown's wireless surveillance system. She said yes. For months before Manning's arrival, she had been preparing. Camera positions, security shift rotations, technical architecture of the monitoring system. She wasn't just a VIP handler anymore. She was a scout, and what she discovered was better than anything Manning could have planned from the outside. Crown's surveillance cameras, the same network designed to catch cheaters, count cards, and track suspects across 220,000 square feet, transmitted wirelessly, not on a closed circuit. Wirelessly. High-resolution, pan-tilt zoom cameras that could read the denomination on a chip from 50 feet away, all broadcasting on a wireless protocol that, with the right frequency and the right access codes, could be intercepted from outside the building entirely. The inside woman provided those codes. Manning had someone ready to use them. Somewhere in Melbourne, police never pinpointed the exact location a young man sits in front of 3 monitors. Computer science background, sharp understanding of network architecture and wireless protocols. And right now he is watching Crown Casino's live surveillance feed from a room that isn't Crown Casino. Camera 247, mahogany room, blackjack table 3, crystal clear overhead angle. Camera 248, direct sightline to the dealer's down card. Camera 249, wide shot of the full table. Camera 248, every player, every chip, every card visible. He can see everything Crown's security team sees. But the security team is looking for problems. He is looking for profit. The operation is elegant in its simplicity. Manning sits at table 3. The hacker watches from outside. The hacker sees the dealer's hole card before Manning has to make any decision. He signals through a hidden wireless earpiece, flesh-colored, seated deep in Manning's right ear canal, no larger than a fingernail, nearly invisible at any camera zoom short of extreme close-up. Manning bets accordingly. In blackjack, knowing the dealer's hole card converts a coin flip into a near certainty. Your win rate doesn't go from 50% to 100%. It goes from 49% to roughly 59 to 60%. That gap sounds small. At $500,000 a hand, it is a machine. But Manning still faces the hardest part of the operation. How do you win $32 million without triggering an alarm? Too many wins. Suspicious. Too consistent. Suspicious. He needs to look like the luckiest man in the building, not the most informed. February 15th, 2013, 9:47 p.m. Manning settles into his chair at blackjack table 3, orders a whiskey, chats with the dealer about nothing in particular. He has played thousands of hands in his life. Tonight has to look like one more. He opens with controlled bets, $50,000 to $100,000. Wins some, loses some. The rhythm of a wealthy man having an ordinary night at a high-limit table. For the first hour, he is completely invisible. In his right ear, a voice, calm, precise. Arriving a fraction of a second delayed the latency of a live wireless feed being processed, compressed, transmitted, decoded. At 10:23 p.m., the voice shifts. Is greater than big bet. You've got the edge. Manning pushes $400,000 in chips forward. The dealer shows a 10. Manning looks at his cards. 16. The nightmare hand, the one that gives every trained player in the room pause. Hit and you bust nearly half the time. Stand and you lose to almost any dealer total above 16. There is no clean answer. Not without knowing what the dealer is holding underneath. Is greater than stand. The dealer flips her hole card. 15. She draws. 10. 25. Busts. Manning wins $400,000. In the surveillance room, an officer zooms in and reviews the hand. Standing on 16 against a dealer 10 is not what a trained player does. But it isn't illegal. It's lucky, or it looks like lucky. Manning shrugs, tips the dealer, sips his whiskey, and drifts back to mid-range bets like a man who got fortunate once and has the discipline not to chase it. This becomes the pattern. Controlled, controlled, controlled. Then one impossible win. Then back to ordinary. He is hiding in plain sight, and the camouflage is holding. By 2:30 a.m., Manning is up roughly $2.5 million. 4 major hands. All of them clean, all of them technically defensible to anyone reviewing the footage, but collectively beginning to form a shape that a sharp analyst would eventually recognize as something other than luck. Then, at 2:34 a.m., the voice in his ear goes silent. Not quiet, silent. Total, complete, absolute silence. Manning adjusts his collar, doesn't look up, doesn't touch his ear. The dealer is mid-shuffle. There is $85,000 already in Manning's betting circle from the previous hand, committed before the signal died. He has no information. He has no edge. For the first time tonight, he is sitting at a blackjack table like every other person who has ever made this mistake alone, with bad odds and no help. The dealer deals. Manning looks at his hand. 14, dealer showing an 8. Basic strategy says hit. Every chart, every formula, every instinct trained into a professional player says hit. But the math doesn't know what the dealer is holding underneath. Manning doesn't know either. And right now that gap between what he knows and what the house knows is the entire width of the room. The silence in his ear is almost loud. He hits. 9. 23. Busts. Loses $85,000. Across the pit, a supervisor watches and allows himself a quiet smirk. Good. He bleeds just like everyone else. What that supervisor doesn't understand, what nobody watching will understand until much later, is that this single loss may be the most valuable thing that happens all night. For 2+ hours, Manning's decision-making had been subtly, almost imperceptibly, too clean, too consistent. A surveillance analyst running a pattern review against the full session would have eventually flagged it. This mistake makes him human. It puts texture back into the data. 10 seconds after the loss, the voice crackles back into Manning's ear. Signal restored. He finishes his drink without reacting. Doesn't look relieved. Doesn't look rattled. Just a man who had a bad hand and moved on. Investigators will later identify the cause. Crown's security team ran a routine wireless sweep at 2:34 a.m. A standard 10-second interference burst designed to detect unauthorized signals on the floor. It found nothing. But it jammed the external feed long enough to force Manning blind, and the loss it forced him into accidentally armored the rest of the operation. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is play it too perfectly. Over 10 hours, Manning plays 347 hands total. Most of them look like exactly what they're meant to look like, a skilled, wealthy player on a hot streak. Between his headline wins, he bets mid-range, jokes with the dealers, tips the staff, loses small amounts with precisely the right frequency to look like a human being rather than a system. 2 hands define the night. Hand 6. Manning is holding 17. Dealer shows a queen. Every rule of blackjack, every textbook, every strategy card ever printed says you stand on 17. You never hit 17. The math is categorical. Is greater than hit? Manning says quietly. The dealer pauses a half second before dealing. The card comes. A 4. 21. Perfect. The dealer has 20. Manning wins $460,000 on a hand that no rational player should ever take. In the surveillance room, a different screen flickers. A different officer leans closer. Then, near dawn, the final hand. Manning pushes $595,000 forward and doubles down immediately. $1 million. $190,000 at risk on a single card exchange. The dealer draws dead. Manning wins $1,190,000 in one hand. Between those 2 headline strikes, he played 339 ordinary hands. Average bet around $650,000. Win rate, sitting just barely above 59%. The kind of edge that's invisible on any individual hand, but compounds into a machine across a full session. Knowing the dealer's hole card had been silently generating approximately $26 million across those 339 unremarkable hands. Add the headline wins, and Manning's verified total comes to $32 million. By 7:47 a.m., James Manning is officially the luckiest man in Australian gambling history. He didn't rob the casino. He walked in through the front door, sat at their table, drank their whiskey, and used their own cameras to take $32 million from them. At least, that was the plan. In the surveillance room, Marcus has been running cameras for 11 years. He knows what luck looks like. Real luck is inconsistent, streaky, emotional. Players win big and then bet bigger and give it back. Real luck has texture. What he is looking at does not have texture. Is greater than, pull up table 3. Last 8 hours. Show me every hand over $300,000. The footage compiles. Marcus watches it through once, then again, then a third time. He checks dealer procedures, scans for marked cards, reviews the footage for any signal between Manning and another player at the table. Everything looks clean. No Confederates, no physical manipulation, no sleight of hand. Then Manning touches his right ear. It's barely a gesture. The kind of thing a man does when he's adjusting glasses, except Manning isn't wearing glasses. Marcus zooms in, advancing frame by frame until he finds it. A flesh-colored device seated in Manning's right ear canal, smaller than a fingernail, nearly invisible at standard zoom. At extreme close-up, it is unmistakable. Someone was feeding him information in real time. But who? And how? Marcus pulls up the network logs. And this is where the entire architecture of what just happened becomes visible. Someone accessed Crown's surveillance feed remotely during Manning's session, not from inside the building, from outside it. An unauthorized user had been tapping into the same cameras Marcus is watching right now, watching every hand, every card, every decision from somewhere in the city. Someone used Crown's own $50 million security system as a cheat sheet. Marcus picks up the phone. Is greater than is greater than. Wake up the head of security. Wake up the casino manager. Get legal on the line. We have a serious problem. By 6 a.m., Manning's winnings are frozen in the system. By 6:15, 6 former military security personnel are walking toward his villa. The knock comes at 6:23 a.m. Inside the villa, Manning's family is still in the slow, warm glow of last night. His wife is already thinking forward what comes next, what changes, what becomes possible now. Manning opens the door. 6 men, all serious, none of them smiling. Is greater than Mr. Manning, we need you to come with us. His wife's face changes. Is greater than. What's happening? Is greater than. There's been an irregularity with your winnings. We need to discuss it. Manning knows exactly what this is. He was coached for this exact moment. He keeps his voice level, his body language open. For a single instant, just one, his eyes move toward the back of the room where his wife is standing. Then he controls it. Is greater than. Of course. Let me get dressed. They escort him to a private security office, not a police station. Casinos prefer to handle these situations without police in the room until they understand exactly what they're dealing with. There are no handcuffs, but the message is clear. Is greater than Mr. Manning. 8 hands over 10 hours, each played against basic probability. We found an earpiece. We found evidence of unauthorized external access to our surveillance cameras. Would you like to explain? Manning says nothing. His lawyers are already being called. Here is where it gets interesting. Manning never cashed his chips. They are still in Crown's system, technically unclaimed, technically still the property of the casino. Crown cannot accuse him of stealing money that is, legally speaking, still theirs. Is greater than, am I under arrest? A pause. Is greater than, not at this time, but we are contacting police. Is greater than, then I'd like to leave. The security chief leans across the table. Is greater than, Mr. Manning, you are banned from this property and every Crown property, permanently. If you attempt to collect those chips, we will pursue fraud charges. Manning stands, straightens his jacket. Is greater than I'd like to collect my family now. Within 30 minutes, Manning and his family are walked off the property. Not arrested, not charged. Banned. Quietly. Permanently. $32 million frozen in Crown's system, legally in limbo. Practically unreachable. But Crown now has a problem that has nothing to do with $32 million. If they prosecute Manning, they have to admit their security was compromised. They have to stand in court and explain how an outsider wirelessly tapped into their surveillance feed, the same feed they used to catch cheaters from somewhere outside the building. They have to admit that their $50 million security system, the one they have spent 20 years building a reputation on, had a vulnerability so fundamental that a young man with a laptop exploited it from a rented room in the city. The reputational damage would cost more than $32 million. High rollers would stop coming. Investors would reassess. Gaming regulators would launch full investigations into the architecture of Crown's security. The Mahogany Room, which exists precisely because wealthy people believe they are in the safest, most controlled gaming environment in the country, would never feel the same to the people who use it. So Crown makes a decision that looks irrational until you follow the money. They cover it up. February 15th, 2013. The same morning, Manning is escorted out through a service exit. Crown Casino has a scheduled PR event. The Winston Cocktail, a blend built around cognac distilled in 1858, priced at $12,500 per glass, with a Guinness World Record attempt pending for world's most expensive cocktail. Press is already assembled in the bar. Cameras are in position. Manning was supposed to be the one who ordered it on camera. The celebrity high roller, the VIP whale crown, had flown in from New Zealand, ordering a $12,500 drink on record. A story about glamour and excess. Exactly the kind of story that sells Crown's image to the kind of clientele who uses the mahogany room. Manning is now being escorted out through a service entrance. Crown cannot cancel the event. Cancellation requires an explanation. An explanation raises questions. So they walk the bar, find another regular customer, a man who has no knowledge of any of this, and ask him, as a personal favor, to order the cocktail on camera. He agrees. Crown picks up the tab. The cameras roll. The Guinness record is logged. The press coverage runs without a single mention of James Manning. Crown quietly refunds the man's $12,500 the following day. The world's most expensive cocktail was staged. The Guinness record was staged. A casino that had just been robbed of $32 million using its own security infrastructure spent the same morning manufacturing a feel-good story about luxury and exclusivity so that no journalist would think to ask why the VIP whale they had flown in from New Zealand wasn't in any of the photographs. Manning never collected his $32 million. The hacker was never publicly identified. The inside woman disappeared behind an NDA. No charges stuck. But here is the detail that stays with you. The vulnerability that made all of this possible, the wireless transmission of Crown's surveillance feed, was not a hidden exploit. It was not some obscure technical backdoor that required genius to find. It was a documented architecture choice, a known property of the system. Crown's own security team swept for unauthorized signals on that feed every morning at 2:34 a.m. They knew wireless interception was theoretically possible. They had built a sweep to detect it. They ran it every single night. They just didn't believe anyone would ever obtain the specific access codes needed to use it. The inside woman knew the codes. Somewhere in Melbourne, a young man packed up his monitors, closed the feeds, and drove home. He was never found. The money never moved. And Crown Casino has never publicly confirmed any of it happened.